Anytime you have a question, feel free to ask in the Q&A. Oh, and by the way, there will be a feedback form shared in chat at the end of this presentation. Please do use that form to let us know what you thought and share suggestions or requests for future topics. So to access the Q&A, if you do have a question during this call, in the bottom right corner of the Google Meet interface, you'll see a button that you can click that's made of a few different shapes. We've indicated where that is with an arrow pointing to the button, which is inside of a large red circle. I'll give everybody a moment to get familiar with that before proceeding. And then once you've clicked on that button, it'll open a menu where you can find the option to choose Q&A. Once there, you will have a chat box where you can choose whether you would like to post questions anonymously or not. So looking forward to your interactions there. So what are we here to learn about today? We're going to talk about what is the Semantic Scholar API. It's scholarly data and advanced AI features. It's also free for commercial and private use. We will also go into some more detail about where to find resources, getting started with the API, where to find community support or support from Semantic Scholar, as well as code examples to help you get started doing more advanced information retrievals from our API. Some of those examples will cover just the most basic level usage. For example, using a URL to paste into your browser and get some results back. We'll also show you an example of using a command line tool called curl, and that will demonstrate using your API key if you have one, which we recommend everybody use. And finally, we'll show you a quick view of what it looks like and a couple of things to check if you want to use Python to retrieve some information. Okay, if it feels like I'm pausing between slides, I want to make sure everybody has a moment to digest the information and submit questions to the Q&A if you think of any. So just in case you're still unsure before we start to dive in, I wanted to give you a view of what this information looks like. On this slide, you can see a screenshot of some output that would come from the command line. This is structured academic data coming from academic papers. The scope of this webinar is very introductory level so that we can give people a sense of what the data is that we're providing and a very introductory level understanding of how to interact with our services and where to go for help. So who are we, the hosts on this call? I'm really excited to have both Rodney, who is the lead engineer of the API, and Ashley, who is our expert in communications and copywriting. They're going to be interacting with you in the chat, responding to your questions. And then myself, I'm the technical program manager on Semantic Scholar's public API, just kind of here to walk you through our slide deck and help support everything that we have. So a little bit about AI2 and Semantic Scholar. AI2 is a nonprofit research institute. with the mission of conducting high-impact AI research and engineering in service of the common good. Semantic Scholar, that's us. We're an entity within AI2. We provide free AI-driven search and discovery tools and open resources for the global research community. Our mission is to accelerate scientific breakthroughs through the use of AI. Um, Looks like a couple of questions are coming in. Thank you. Okay. So, what is the Semantic Scholar API? It's a tool that provides the public with access to a database of scientific papers. Uh, Interactive, where you use the API to call data back, or you can download copies of this database and do work with that locally. You can harness the power of AI to extract meanings, find relevant studies, and connect academic insights. This tool is designed for supporting researchers, educators, and innovators in accessing scholarly data efficiently. So why might you use the Semantic Scholar API? Um, we know there are some other services out there, so a little bit about our service that makes us unique. We're a completely free service offered by a nonprofit organization. We offer over 214 million papers, uh, 2 billion citations. That's such a huge number, and 79 million authors. We utilize leading models to provide author disambiguation and relevance matching. Some of our unique data includes TLDRs, Spectre 2 embeddings, recommendations, and peer review and conflict of interest data. An API key is not required for most of our services. So if you're just exploring what's there and working to understand what we offer, you can connect right away and start pulling data down without a key. But anybody can have a key. And when you receive one, you immediately receive higher request rate limits and full access to our services. Additionally, uh, one thing I think that's great about Semantic Scholar is we offer personal support via Slack. So you can come into Slack and participate in our channels or look through previous examples. Um, yeah, very valuable resource to the community. So Semantic Scholars API is continuously under development. We're building new features. Oh, excuse me. Just responding to a question here. We're continuously building new features in 2023. In the API space, we've built autocomplete. This is where you can receive an endpoint or work with an endpoint to have interactive query completions. So think like Google search when you start typing a query and you start to receive those recommendations in a list. TLDRs, auto-generated paper summaries, um, all computer science known nearest neighbor. So receive recommended papers from your inputs, Spectre 2 embeddings, proximity embeddings for computing document similarity, and paper bulk search. Very recent feature. You can match and fetch up to 10 million papers, and we also offer some pretty useful sorting and filtering functionality at that endpoint. Um, Incremental data sets. This is a feature that augments Datasets API. So Datasets API is where you can download a copy of our corpus, and incremental datasets lets you then update that copy with only what has changed from when you originally downloaded that larger data set. Because of how large the volume of data is, this is very useful in keeping costs down and time efficient. And then a citations data set for a persistent identifier for citations. Thank you for the questions. And just a reminder, if you're looking to ask some questions, please use the Q&A feature with the three shapes in the bottom right of this call, as opposed to raising a hand. That should get you answers more quickly. Thank you. So we're going to dive into where to find resources. This is the overview page. It's kind of the main homepage for the API. A link to this page will be shared in chat. So take a moment to check chat, and you can open this up on your side and follow along. From here, you can access testimonials. If you scroll down, you'll see some testimonials and other information about the API. And please follow along as we move forward. There's the link in the chat now. Thank you, Ashley. So the next resource on this page, if you notice the green box is indicating the tutorial link. Maybe just proceed to the next slide to show you what that tutorial looks like. If you click on that link, you'll be able to find a set of examples for getting data from the API. Really useful. It's broken out by types of tasks, so you can kind of think about the types of things you might want to accomplish, or you might find a new idea here. Keep an eye on this page as we move through the rest of this month. We're currently in progress and getting close to publishing some updates, so there will be a lot more exciting content there shortly. So back on the home page, if you're following along, the next link to take a look at will be the documentation link. Sort of similar to the tutorial, but a little bit deeper. I'll proceed to show you what that looks like. In that documentation link here, it's a more developer-focused resource where you can review a full list of options for interacting with the API. Every functionality we offer will be here. So across the top, you can move from section to section in the context of the different APIs that we offer. In the current view, we're looking at the academic graph API. And once you've clicked on that, in the left navigation, you see a list of different endpoints that you can interact with and the different functionalities that we offer. We currently have selected in this view, get details for multiple papers at once. If you click on that with us, you'll be looking at just the same page that I'm showing you here. This will provide a list of information about that activity, getting details for multiple papers at once. You can learn about the limitations of it, the different fields and filters that you can use to interact with that endpoint. And so that's a great resource, quick overview of how to utilize it. Okay, moving forward. So, we're back on the overview page again, and I am going to take a quick look with you at the gallery page. This is a super cool page. This is where we provide highlights and access to products that users of our API have built. And so you can go here and look at some really powerful examples of what can be done with our data. Very interesting visualizations, for example, of relationships, things that are going on within the academic data. So maybe as a quick mention, if you're building or have a product that you think might be interesting to have featured on this page, definitely do feel free to reach out. I'm always excited to put new products there. So okay, so final final piece across the top navigation there. If you click on Cite the Paper, this will bring you to, and this is kind of a plug for our online team. Um, this will bring you to the paper that describes the intent and design of our platform. And if you click on Semantic Reader there, you'll get a view of our online tool that is for reading academic papers, and you'll get to take a look at some of those really exciting features. Okay, moving on, we'll move pretty quickly now through the rest of this overview. On the left-hand side here, in the green box, I'm indicating the code examples and Q&A bank links. Those both will take you to two different resources in our GitHubs. The code examples is where you can get some examples, for example, in Python, scripts to interact with our different endpoints. As a launchpad to get useful, or even if you just have a question, that's a great place to submit those kinds of issues. I would think of going to the Slack kind of for more one-off quick questions and utilizing the GitHub, the Q&A bank for submitting questions as generally a larger chunk of work. So we respond more quickly in the Slack. Tend to. So the next item here, request an API key. If you click on this link, it'll take you down the page, down the overview page where you can learn more about the API key. And finally, you'll end up at a form. And here's what that form looks like. And you can fill this out and receive an API key. We generally process requests inside of about 24 hours. We're probably averaging more like 5 hours Monday through Friday. So pretty quick turnaround there, and looking for ways to speed that up too. API service status page. So if you're building something on our API, you can refer to this page to get a sense of what's going on our side. So you might be writing some code and having some delays or something's not working. And this is a good place to check to see if, in fact, there might be an issue on our side. So I know that's been a really valued resource for developers. So finally, you've heard me mention Slack quite a bit, and here's where you can join the community. This refers to accessing our public Slack. You'll see me in there, Christopher Furley, quite a bit, working on answering your questions both in the channels or send me a direct message if you prefer. Here's a little bit of what that looks like. So the general channel is kind of where we, Semantic Scholar, might share announcements. Feel free to contribute there as you please. The random channel, I leave that kind of just to users. And the one that's highlighted right now, S2AG, pronounced stag-API. This is where a lot of the activity happens. You can scroll up and look at different examples there, code examples that I provide to user questions. Or feel free, if you think you have an answer, please. I love to see users helping other users, so that's great. Okay. So you don't need an API key, but be aware if you're working with our API without a key, you're sharing a limit of 5,000 requests per 5 minutes with everyone else who is working with our API without a key. It's a shared resource. If you do request a key, as soon as you get it, you've got higher request rate limits, which I've summarized below, and you also get access to all of the features that we offer. Just going to slow down a little bit just in case there are any questions on this. And moving forward. So again, to request a key, this link that will take you directly to the form has just been shared in the chat. It will probably be resolved by the end of today. So we'll be pretty quick with that today. Go to the form, fill it out. Please be aware if you're asking for a key for a product or something that might persist. An example might be I'm on a team and we're thinking about building something on Semantic Scholars data. Suppose someday I move to another company, but that team should still have access to that key. I'm going to go ahead and request that key with a team email. So I put an example here of what I mean. researchteam@coolproject.com. That would be a better email to use for contact for the key owner than Christopher@coolproject.com, because once I move on, my email won't exist anymore. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, moving forward. Oh, we're at the halfway mark. Hopefully everybody's enjoying this so far. Maybe take a quick stretch. I know I will. Okay. And let's continue. So far we've covered, what is Semantic Scholar, where to find the resources, how and why to request a key. We're going to jump into some of the real stuff now, requesting data via some various methods, and where to find Python examples. Okay. So just to get you started, the first example of requesting data, URL request. So this URL is something you could paste into your browser right now, and you would get some results in the browser. I wanted to explain a little bit more, though, about the structure of the URL. The first part, which is highlighted here, that's kind of the base URL. So this part is pretty much just never going to change. But the second part of it, this is where the user can start specifying what they really want to do. This piece specifies paper. An alternative example might be author, if you want to go get information about authors. So in the example that you're looking at right now for a paper, we then specify the identifier, the ID of the paper. And once we have these pieces all put together, if we put that URL into the browser, here's an example of what those results might look like. You've got a confirmation about the paper ID there, and then you can see the title of the paper. So that's pretty interesting, but maybe you want to do a little more. So we can add some more fields to it. So everything we have seen so far is the same, but at the end of that, we'll put a question mark and then the word fields, and that's letting our systems know that you're going to do something else with this paper ID. You're going to be asking for some fields, and the fields that you're asking for, will be URL, year, and authors, and each one of those items are separated by a comma. Now we have quite a bit more information. This is getting interesting. We've got the authors, we've got year and URLs. Pretty exciting. Moving forward, so what we just did was without a key and very basic. Here we're going to start using a tool called curl, which you can use in the command line. It should be available or already installed on Windows and Mac systems. This example will show you how to use a key. So from the beginning of the command curl all the way to the end where you see the word authors, this whole command can be pasted into the command line and you could hit enter, but you would need to replace where it says your key here with your actual key. Once you do that, you would see some results similar to below. You can see this is a successful request indicated with a green arrow. And then just for a sense of what it might look like if there's an error, here's where the response from our systems, indicated by a red arrow, say forbidden. And you can see the red box there, this curl example. I forgot to put the key there, right? So the system said, well, I don't know, you're gonna have to use a key for this. Okay, moving forward. So here's a quick look at the recommendations endpoint using Python for paper data. Um, what I wanted to indicate here is some high level things to watch out for if you want to go ahead and look at our Python code examples on GitHub. So first off, these examples assume that the user has their API key configured in what is called the system environment variables. All this means is it's a place in your computer that you tell the computer, my API key is this, and you paste your API key there. And then once you've saved that file, your command line, when you type S2 API key in this example, is what I'm telling my command line to refer to as the alias for the actual key. The command line will know to go look at that file and use the key when the code is submitted or when the code is ran. And so I'm indicating where that's happening in this script here with the green box. You also make note below the header type is x-API key. You'll notice that when you get to taking a look at those Python code examples. Okay. Couple of other callouts here. So paper recommendations, pretty exciting endpoint to use. You can submit positive or negative paper IDs. A positive ID just tells our system that you want results that are similar to this ID or this list of IDs. And a negative paper ID would tell our system just the opposite. Give whatever the results are, steer them away from things that are like these IDs. And so here in this screenshot, you can see an example of what those lists might look like. And here's an example of the output from the system. We've got a list of author IDs and a title of a paper. Another thing to notice when you're looking at the script example for paper recommendations is you can set the number of results that you want to get, indicated as a limit. Okay, moving forward, we're getting close to the end. But before we get there, there's a little bit more. So I mentioned earlier on this call that you can download a full copy of our data set. This is specifically what that might look like if you wanted to get a copy of the abstract slice of our data set or authors or citation of conflict of interest, or also computation of a matching score between a reviewer and a submissions topic based on the reviewer's publication history. If that sounds interesting to you, please reach out. It does require one additional step and on top of having an API key. Okay. So just recapping, if you want to do more advanced things with scholarly data, we have those Python examples available on GitHub. If you have any questions, recommend you reach out via our Slack community. And here's a quick list so that you can get a sense of some of those scripts that we provide in the webinar code examples. So, yeah, Looks like those are, the link to that is shared just now in chat. Thank you again, Ashley, for sharing that link in our meeting chat. So if anyone here is interested in taking a look at those scripts, check that out now. And moving forward, I just wanted to kind of provide a sense of some of the tools that we get questions about that users are using to interact with our data. Not only is, shout out to the great other tools that are out there that we didn't cover on this call, but maybe also seed for ideas for you to request when you provide feedback at the end of the call for future topics. So I'll just pause there for a moment so that people can look through this list. Okay. So again, Q&A looks like it's very active. Thank you to everyone for sharing your questions there. And finally, thank you for joining us and participating on this webinar. A link to a feedback form is currently available in the chat. I'm really looking forward to getting your feedback, comments, or suggestions for future webinar topics there. And that is the conclusion of our webinar. Please be sure to open that feedback form in chat and let us know what else you'd like to learn about in the future. Thank you.